Welcome to the Spartan Sports Podcast. I am your host, Thomas Chavez, and today I am joined by
Zachary Lockerman,
Carter Fry,
Aaron Baydoun,
and Tyler Castillo.
Alrighty, gentlemen. We've had some big news in the NFL this week. It's been it's massacre week, right? Everyone's getting cut. No big contract is off the board for the chopping block. We've seen, some big changes on the Saints roster. For the past 5 years, the Saints have been able to just skim by with having over the cap somehow, but not having to cut anyone. And they finally had to make some cuts. We saw Janoris Jenkins, Emmanuel Sanders go. Chiefs had to make some big decisions at tackle. How are we feeling about all these cuts?
I also heard that the Saints are planning to release Quan Alexander. Well, I read that. Yeah. So, the Saints are really going through it. We sort of knew they would have to. I think they were, $60 million over at the beginning of the offseason. Ridiculous that they were even allowed to do that. I feel like there should be a rule against that because the Steelers are minus $6 million every year. We can't do anything, but the Saints are allowed to go $60 million over. I guess it is what it is. But yeah, definitely looking rough for their defense. A lot of releases. Emmanuel Sanders, not so much as a surprise. Veteran wide receiver. He'll be picked up by somebody. Really great guy. I'm trying to look at who else was released around the league, unless anyone else has anything to say about the Saints.
I was going to say that the one move that I think surprised a lot of people was the fact that they actually ended up franchise tagging their safety Marcus Williams. Obviously we talked about their huge cap deficit. It seemed like he'd be a sure bet to hit free agency. The fact that they actually tagged him, I think surprised just a lot of people because, it just seemed like he's going to cost a lot. And the Saints, they still have the biggest thing they still have to get through as well is Drew Brees done. Is he going there? Because everyone assumed he was, but he hasn't yet. So that's going to be a question that's going to be hanging on them because obviously they still are going to have his contract, and that's going to complicate things. And in terms of who are they going to go after? Are they going to re-sign Jameis Winston? Or are they going to go roll with Taysom Hill? Is Brees maybe going to come back again? Stuff like that. I was a little surprised with the Chiefs. I don't know. Mitchell Schwartz, when he's healthy, is usually the best right tackles in the game. And Eric Fisher, has he played like a number one pick overall in his career? No, but he's turned into a solid left tackle. These are good linemen. So I get it. You're a contender. You got to make cap saving. You got to make cuts to get yourself under the cap. But Patrick Mahomes, listen, Russell Wilson's making noise about not wanting to get hit as much in Seattle. You got to worry about keeping Patrick Mahomes upright. He can escape a lot of pressure, but you don't want a game like he faced in the Super Bowl with the Bucs every week.
Yeah, so. And you have to wonder. I was making a joke earlier in the week when I first saw they released those two guys. Like I said, Fisher hasn't played up to his status as a pick, but he has been solid, and Schwartz is great. And I was like, man, they want Mahomes to die before he touches that $500 million. That's just what it seems like. Especially after seeing what you saw in the Super Bowl. Listen, Mahomes can do a lot for you, but it definitely seems that if you don't have anything to protect the guy, then that's their Achilles heel. I'm very shocked that's the route that they went. I would have preferred they started to attack that defense before they, started ripping apart, their weakest part already, which was their offensive line.
This is the curse of what happens when you have a franchise quarterback. Once they get that big contract, you have no room for almost anyone else, really. It's really interesting to see just how many teams that made it to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl in the past 10 years had their quarterbacks on a rookie contract or a very cheap contract, because, that's kind of what you need if you want to be able to build a solid roster around the quarterback that can compete every single year. Like the Eagles, they had Carson Wentz and Nick Foles both on very cheap contracts, and then they were able to build a solid team around them with really good players. Seahawks, Russell Wilson was on his rookie contract. Ravens, Joe Flacco was, he was not considered elite yet. He was not yet considered in the elite conversation, so he was not making a lot of money. So it's almost like the route you need to take to win a Super Bowl is have your quarterback on a rookie deal and have the team around him first, And then once that quarterback starts to come up for his new deal, you need to win in like the next 2 years. Otherwise, you should probably blow it up because you're not going to be able to afford anyone else after that.
Yeah, and I think they just could have gone other directions to save money. I mean, they had their defense is okay, but they have a lot of money on it, and you have to think like, listen, it's Patrick Mahomes. Do you really need Travis Kelsey and give Tyreek Hill a massive like? Do you need both of those guys? I mean, it's great to have them, but I mean, I think it's more important to protect Mahomes and at least keep a semblance of a running game before you just do that.
And that's what I was going to say, Zach, too, is like they have so many offensive weapons. Like, get rid of a couple backup receivers rather than your 2 starting tackles, where you've obviously seen in the Super Bowl that they are pretty crucial to keeping Mahomes like in the game and keeping you in the game in general. Like, I think their defense is solid as it is. So I think like you try to avoid to make too many cuts there because they have a nice, decent defense that can kind of hold up and hold their own. Like, whereas their offense is explosive, so they don't really need their defense to do a whole lot. So I think that they could have went a different route maybe, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Like, they have to have some plan in mind if they're getting rid of their 2 starting tackles. Like, and they've saw what the deficit is like without them. So I don't know.
One thing I will say is I think this might be it's maybe not as far as top talent goes, but as far as like depth and richness of talent, this is one of the most interesting free agency periods I think I've ever experienced. Because I'm also reading that the Packers are not going to franchise Aaron Jones. The Seahawks are not going to franchise Chris Carson. So those are 2 top running backs that could potentially be free agents. Not to mention all these guys are being released. Tons of offensive line right now going to be entering the free agent market. It's just maybe it's just because I know the Steelers have a terrible offensive line, but I'm kind of excited. I'm hoping we can get one of these guys at the very least.
One thing that frustrates me like individually is like for the Lions, we just cut 2 of our corners, and like they obviously like Desmond Trufant and Justin Coleman are nothing near top corners in the league, but they're still corners. Like, we don't have anything else to work with. Like, Okuda was getting burnt all year. He got hurt, so we needed extra corners. And then I don't even know who our backup corners are. So I don't know. I think that's 2 really weird moves on the Lions end, just coming like talking about the Lions or whatever. But I don't know, because our defense is horrible as it is. So maybe they just don't care and they're just trying to free up as much money as they can.
Yeah, but I say it really looks like the Lions are beginning to clean house. I mean, it also says they're not going to franchise Kenny Golladay, and they talk about releasing 2 corners. They trade Matthew Stafford. They release Jesse James. I mean, but it's Jesse James, so who really cares? But point being, they're really looks like they're just cleaning house, and they just want a nice clean slate. They should probably send Okuda out of town also because he doesn't give them much.
Okuda,
yeah, speaking of Golladay, that makes me really sad.
I don't know about that. I mean,
whoa. Okay, first off, rookie corners tend to not play very well their first year.
I was just joking. It was just a Lions joke. I apologize.
Darius Slay was terrible in 20. He was bad in 2013 when he got drafted, and then listen, it took him a couple of years, but he became a top 10 corner in the league. So I mean, you can't give up. I mean, the Lions, they're in a situation where they're gonna clean house. They're trying to listen. Dan Campbell, they're trying to build. They're building up their own team, and I mean that's guys like Coleman and Trufant they didn't perform well anyway. So
that's true.
Like Jesse James, like what? Not to say anything bad about the guy personally, but what did Jesse James do?
What did he looked cool.
He didn't do anything.
I don't know why we even needed to sign Jesse James because we already have Hawkinson. So
James was signed before Hawkinson was drafted.
The Lions signed Jesse James, and then they drafted Hawkinson. So then it becomes like it's not a bad thing to have 2 tight ends, but they never threw to him. I mean, I don't know, maybe I guess they used a blocker, but like they never involved him in the offense.
I'm not a fan of Jesse James. He likes to drop important passes too much for my taste.
That wasn't a drop. Zach.
It was a drop. Well, you're right. Technically, it should have been a catch, but still, I just don't want to talk about it.
Are you talking about the Patriots game?
Yeah.
Yes.
When he had the touchdown, but they called it a drop.
Baby. You mean when the Patriots won that game?
Oh, we're gonna talk about Cam Newton at all?
Oh yeah, Cam Newton.
Good for
signed his contract. $14 million. They could have had Ryan Fitzpatrick for cheaper than that, but that's none of my business.
He's retiring. He says he's giving it up.
No, he's not. He's coming back. Fitzpatrick loves the game too much.
I think Cam's gonna have a great year.
I don't think
Redemption
he's gonna have a
time.
great year.
I don't know about a great year. I think he can do decent, but New England has to do a lot more for him than they did this past year because they gave him literally nothing to work with.
Well,
I agree. I think he individually is gonna have a great year. I don't know about the team.
For sure. Like, I mean, if it all comes down to anything, he'll just run the ball like he did all last year. Like he'll have like 80 rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns.
They brought him a pretty great right tackle to play with. Trent Brown's back in New England. So
it's funny they trade him to Oakland and then they just get him right back a couple years later. Like that's whatever. Hey, way of the road.
Bill Belichick path, that's what he does. He thinks 10 steps ahead. He knew he was going to get him back eventually.
I guess he just wasn't ready for Brady to leave. That's not really thinking 10 steps.
This is a bit of a tangent, and I'll be real quick about it. But if you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick's career stats, you can make a case for Hall of Fame for that guy.
Ryan Fitzpatrick is my favorite football player of all time.
I think
zero slander.
I'm just saying, all time you can make it like if you put his stat 35,000 yards, 200 and some touchdowns. I mean that's a resume back in the
Hall
day.
of Fame for backups. I mean, when you play like 17 years or whatever in the league, yeah, you're gonna put up stats. I mean, that's pretty. That's not. No,
hey,
I'm taking zero slander, Darren.
Don't hate on Fitzmagic.
Hey, listen, he is a perfectly good backup bridge quarterback type who can come in and can win you a game. I'm not trying to say he's been solid in that role for his entire career, but no.
He had the greatest season for a Jets quarterback in their history of their franchise.
I would put Fitzpatrick in before I put Flacco in.
Is that saying much, Thomas? Is that really saying much?
I mean, better than
Fitzpatrick before Flacco?
I just hate Joe Flacco.
Oh, God.
Okay, listen, I didn't mean to get us on this tangent. I apologize. It was accidental.
All right, well, we need to get into the nitty-gritty. Is Joe Flacco elite?
No.
He's never been elite.
No, never.
He had a couple good years.
No, never. He will never. He's never elite ever.
I was kidding.
Overpaid contracts ever probably in the history of the game.
Can we talk about how Tom Brady won't just retire and now he just signed a 4-year extension? Can we talk about that?
I'd like to talk about how Tom Brady left New England because he wanted to finally get paid his money, and then he's coming to Tampa Bay and taking pay cuts.
Me and Thomas were talking about this earlier. Like,
Brady don't care about money. He does not care about money. He only wants rings on his fingers, baby. He does not care about anything else.
Giselle's got all the money. He doesn't.
Gonna say
Giselle. Anyway, he's not. They're not. He doesn't need to. He can skim if he wants to. Like that's not. That's not an issue for him.
Money is not a problem in the Brady household. What's a problem is the dude won't retire and he keeps haunting my nightmares because
listen, you look back at last season. I mean, just to finish this off, it's like Brady threw 40 touchdowns. That was the first. This last season was the first season that Brady threw 40 or more touchdowns since 2007 when he threw 50 and when the Patriots were one game from going undefeated. Think about that. Think crazy. About that. Facts. The first time since 2007 that he threw 40 or more. And he did that at 43? Yeah.
The dude wants to play 30 years, which means, my entire life has been haunted by the image of this man. And I don't know how much more I could take.
Well, he's not in your conference anymore, so at least if you're facing him.
He's still winning Super Bowls. That's all that matters.
Brady is the epitome of all I do is win.
Literally, like that song was made about him before he was even winning. Actually, I guess technically not.
Before we move on from football, I have to mention the Allen Robinson situation. It's so sad to see. The city of Chicago has embraced this guy, unlike most other Chicago Bears over the years. Fans love him. He wants to be in the city, and we franchise tag him again. Like, what are we doing?
You're getting ready to get Russell Wilson.
No, the Chicago Bears. I have a feeling I'll just end it right there. You're the Chicago Bears. That's about it. I don't know.
Yeah, Ryan Pace does not care about his players.
Think about this. Allen Robinson, at least for the past couple of years, has he definitely would be considered a top 10 wide receiver.
Easily last year.
Yeah.
Last year, easily.
Easily last year.
Maybe top 5.
Probably the year before too.
Think about this though. Over the course of his career, the main 2 quarterbacks that he's played with have been Blake Bortles and Mitchell Trubisky. And he's put up the numbers that if he had Andy Dalton Like if he had like a just the middle of the road quarterback, like a mediocre quarterback, not just bad, but just even like just average. This guy would probably catch like 120 pounds. I mean, he's put up huge numbers, and he's had two of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league over the past decade as his main throwers. Like it's
like give him a Ryan Fitzpatrick or something.
He's
know?
only been playing for 6 years, hasn't been a decade. He'll get somebody.
No, but I'm saying, but he's been. I put him like I used to think and I still think to this day that DeAndre Hopkins still might be the best wide receiver in the league because DeAndre Hopkins, whether in Houston, whether it was Brian Hoyer, Tom Savage, whoever you put in there, he produced and he was a stud. And Allen Robinson's done that. So like when you have a wide, like it doesn't matter who he's throwing, he's gonna get his. And I
thought Antonio Brown was still playing, but I guess not.
Oh my God, Zach! Like, come on.
He's my favorite player ever. I'll never get over it.
Okay,
he's my favorite player ever.
DeAndre, like right now, Hopkins is the best receiver, and for like the past like 3 years, Hopkins has been the best receiver in the league.
No.
Who's the other option? Like Julio is the other option to take. I think
he's too hurt. He's hurt 24/7. You can't say he's the best receiver if he's hurt.
I'm not saying that Julio's.
Oh no, I'm just giving my reason.
The next closest.
I mean, you could say Michael Thomas before he got hurt. I mean, because
Michael Thomas from slant rounds.
Mr. Slant Boy, Michael Thomas.
I mean, he did set a record for most catches in this. I mean, it's hard to do. I mean, you got to be able to. I mean,
at least
he came out, he produced every week.
I'll say this. If you have a tight end who has more yards than you in a season, I can't consider you the best wide receiver in the league. That's all I'm saying.
Who's that apply to?
Travis Kelce had more catches had more yards than DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay, Travis Kelce's essentially
Travis Kelce is a different breed, by the way. He's not a regular tight end.
Who would I take over DeAndre Hopkins? I would take Devontae Adams over DeAndre Hopkins. I would take Stephon Diggs.
One. I think Devontae Adams is like the second best receiver in the league.
He's top 3 maybe.
Stephon Diggs.
I don't know about Diggs.
Tyreek Hill.
Today we're learning Zach knows nothing about football.
Yeah, essentially.
Honestly,
at least wide receivers.
Listen, I'm a little angry with the two of them because they cost me our fantasy football championship. So Kyler Murray and D-Hop, I'm not happy with you two. Yeah. When you give me 5 points because your ankle's hurt, I don't want to hear much from you.
We're also talking to the guy who would take AB over Megatron.
All time, yes, because he has the greatest stretch in NFL history as far as wide receiver stats go or receiving stats go. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
I'm not getting into it.
Only Jerry Rice could compete with Antonio Brown's best 5-year stretch. Antonio Brown's best 5-year stretch, only Jerry Rice was ever able to put up numbers similar.
I will not argue that.
Okay, and you just listed 2 wide receivers with 2 of the some of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Like Ben Roethlisberger back then was at least a decent quarterback, and Joe Montana and Steve Young were great quarterbacks. So
let me just read you this stretch. 2013, 1,500 yards. 2014, 1,700 yards. 2016, 1,834 yards. 2016, 1,300 yards. 2017, 1,533 yards. That's the best stretch in history. Those are double-digit touchdowns in each one of those seasons. Best in history.
I will not argue that when Calvin, after 2013, since Calvin only was had a couple years left, that Brown was the best receiver in the league after his peak. But I have seen, listen, I have been a fan of the Lions, so yes, I have been biased in this way, but I have seen Calvin Johnson do things that I have seen no other wide receiver do. I saw him go up and out jump 3 defenders for a 50-yard Hail Mary in the end zone. No one else is. I'm not saying Antonio Brown wasn't great.
The closest person to Calvin is Hopkins did that this year, but that's about it.
You guys are showing extreme bias. I don't care if you have 25,000 receiving yards in a season. If you go 0-16, it doesn't matter.
If you're a receiver.
It doesn't matter.
Zach,
it does not matter.
If you are a position player and you go 0-16, that's all on you.
No, it's that greatness means nothing if you were losing in the process. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, sorry that Calvin didn't have this great system behind him like the Steelers did. That makes no, or the 49ers.
They had the most underrated quarterback in history in Matthew Stafford. I mean, what else do you need?
He was still young when he was playing with Calvin. He was
Listen,
literally a rookie.
The point is, we can talk about catching balls over 3 defenders. The reason that happened is because Matthew Stafford used to send prayers and just hope that he caught it, and sometimes he did. I mean, that's what happens when you give people the chance.
Okay.
More often than not.
Okay, speaking of sports, the NBA has the All-Star break's over. We're back into the home stretch of the NBA season. So, some teams are trying to make their surge up the standings. Some teams are, now they're going tank mode because they realize their seasons are lost. So what are some teams that you guys are looking at for the second half of the season?
Who's starting?
We can start with
I'll
Tyler.
start. All right, yeah. So the team that I'm looking at is the Hornets, Charlotte Hornets. I don't know. I think this team is really interesting. I think there's a lot of possibility here. They just announced that LaMelo Ball is going to stick into the starting lineup to the end of the year, which I think is a great call because the dude's been balling. He's probably rookie of the year. There's a couple other few like close contenders, but I just think this guy is doing it all right now for a team that obviously needs it. Like they got Terry Rozier, who's been doing just fine as well. Like LaMelo and Terry Rozier are going to be a pretty decent backcourt. And then Gordon Hayward is, their leading scorer. He's doing great. He's averaging 21 a game. I don't know. I think they just have a lot of young core pieces that could. I'm not saying they're gonna like make a huge push in the playoffs, but could definitely make a push into the playoffs and then maybe even advance a round or two. I don't know.
They can scare somebody. They could definitely.
It's a possibility. Like they got PJ Washington is young, Miles Bridges is young. They got a ton of pieces. Devontae Graham even he's a backup point guard he's got 13 a game right now. Like he's doing fine. Malik Monk as well. Like they got a lot of nice core young pieces that, could possibly do something. But I don't know. I think they definitely have a possibility of blowing it up. I mean, they're in the East. And like we all know, the East is nowhere near the West. So you never know what could happen. Anybody can make a push in the East, in my opinion. I mean, the Knicks are in the 5th seed right now. So I don't know. I just thought I would touch on the Hornets because I think they definitely have the possibility of doing something.
About the Hornets, I will say they have one of the nicest young cores in the NBA. LaMelo, PJ Washington, and Miles Bridges. Those three, they make up a really nice trio of young guys to have moving forward, especially as they continue to bring in other assets as well. I think they'll probably be a contender at some point. I mean, I assume so. They look pretty good now. So
What I would like to say about specifically LaMelo Ball is I'm honestly shocked by how well-rounded he is already at such a young age. Like I thought, like the old adage is that athletes need to have a certain like spark or like a certain thing that drives them, and it just never seemed like he did. He grew up like a rich kid from like California and like had everything he ever wanted. People like that don't usually have that drive to become like greats. I mean, that's what you always see anyway. But like
I could have told you that he was going to be good. He's just Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say so I'm just very surprised by like, first of all, he seems very mature, surprisingly mature, like when he's playing the game, and he just seems really well rounded. I mean, you could say he needs to fix his shot or whatever, but I mean that's just how that whole family shoots. They shoot strangely for whatever reason.
They got weirdo shots, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I enjoy watching him play. I didn't think I'd like him.
He's entertaining. Like, I mean, if you watched him at all last year playing in the Australian League, only for for the 9 games he did, he was balling. Like, and that's against that's like the next step down from the NBA. So like that's a lot of like, it's a lot of training and practice, like going towards getting into the NBA. Whereas college is like kind of a whole different level.
It's more fundamentals. It's more fundamental in those other leagues versus like explosion in the college levels.
I think you're right about LaMelo though. Like he doesn't really have that thing that you would seem like he like cares about basketball a lot. Like he's just so like laid back. He doesn't like really like seem like he's like that into it. But like he is obviously.
He's just a person our age who now is in the NBA. So it's like
exactly
because he acts like we do.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm done on the Hornets. If you guys want to go ahead and talk about your teams now.
Yeah, let's move on to Zach. Who do you got?
I don't think it's any surprise. I mean, you guys all sort of predicted who I was going to discuss when this topic was announced. And I won't just say for LeBron James, but for the Los Angeles Lakers, that's who I'm most forward. That's who I'm looking toward to watch most. Jesus, I'm sorry. I had a stroke there. Golly. But no, aside from just LeBron, who is the best player of all time, the best player currently playing, and it's not even close. It's going to be interesting to watch them as the season progresses because Anthony Davis is going to get healthy again. they were in a little bit of a rut there for a moment when he first got hurt, but they seem to be coming out of it. We'll see what happens. But I just want to see them get healthy again, and I want to see Anthony Davis get back into the lineup, and I'm ready to see them compete for their second straight championship, which they will win. So I mean, that's really why not watch them? The best team in the world.
I mean, I think right now what we're looking at with Anthony Davis out is just how much the Lakers rely on their two stars, because the Lakers have been struggling recently. LeBron recently said, it has to be go time for him, but last time he said that, he didn't even finish the season. So
and it's crazy how Anthony Davis is the best player on the Lakers.
Let's not go that far. But what I'm getting at is when Anthony Davis does return, if he's not 100% and playing to his fullest abilities, I think you're still going to see the Lakers struggling in the playoffs. And if Anthony Davis can't play, Anthony Davis ball, then you might see the Lakers get bounced in the first or second round very easily.
Whoa! Let's not get crazy. Let's not
literally very easily, but they might get bounced in the 6-game series.
The West is deep. I mean, you're talking about the Jazz, the Suns, the Clippers. You can't, even though they've struggled, you can't. The Nuggets are going to be a threat. There are at least 6 legitimate teams probably in the West that you could see at least going to the conference finals. You can't.
I just want to remind everyone that this is LeBron James, and that over the course of his career, he's never really focused on having the best record. There's pretty much every year there's always a point where it's like, oh no, is this team not great because they lose some games? All right, but let's just say how it is. When the time comes down to it, these young bucks, they can't compete with the greatest of all time. When that LeBron light is shining down upon them, they always crumble. It's happened for 16 years. It's going to happen for another 10. It is the one constant in life is that the young bucks crumble when they face LeBron James, and it'll continue to happen unless those savages that play in the basement of Staples Center have something to say about it. That's all. I mean, that's like the only thing.
I have one quick thing to add. The Jazz cannot win the finals because they do not have a former New York Knick on their team. And for the past 70 or so years, every single team that's won a championship has had a former New York Knick on it. So just want to throw that out there.
I mean, they couldn't even get picked in the top 15 in the All-Star game selection. So I mean, who cares about the Jazz, right?
Hey, now.
I like Donovan Mitchell. I don't like Rudy Gobert, but
that was so weird. I know LeBron James didn't mean to insult anyone when he said that, but dang, that's really gotta hurt.
Well, it doesn't. It's Karl Malone ruined the Jazz, and all of Utah is racist. So it's there's nothing good there.
How did we get here? That's
okay. No, you guys haven't saw on Twitter.
No. Let's not go there.
No, everybody is saying when LeBron said that. When LeBron said that, everybody on Twitter was like, well, it's not the Jazz's fault that all of Utah is racist. Everybody was saying that on Twitter.
So you're citing Twitter.
Their fan base is just kind of
well known.
I mean, look, what about when Russell went? What about when Russell Westbrook went there and he had that dude call him,
Words.
That was one guy, admittedly, but let's not. I was gonna say this kind of.
Okay, I'm just saying. There's been a lot of NBA players that have said that Utah is racist. So
I mean, they're called the Utah Jazz because that's where jazz music started, which is an African American form of music. How the fuck are they
not
racist?
Called the Jazz because jazz music started in Utah. They used to be in St. Louis or something.
I don't think of that. Yeah,
just go with it. I'm trying to save the city. I'm trying to give them clout because we just called the entire city racist.
Tyler called
the entire city obviously
racist.
Tyler, I guess I went a little too far with the entire city, but I'm just saying a lot of the fanship is apparently, allegedly, there you go, racist.
Let's move on.
Let's just slide on past.
Let's Carter. You like basketball, right?
We're sorry to
I much love basketball. So my team to watch for the rest of the season is the Miami Heat. I mean, Jimmy Butler, Bam, and that whole supporting cast, they just got over 500 last night with their win against the Magic. So they're definitely headed in the right direction after a very slow start to the season. They've won 8 of their last 9, if I'm doing my math correct. It looks like Jimmy Butler is about to get into prime form for the rest of the season. He's only shooting like 23% from 3, which is probably a career low. And but they're still succeeding even though he's shooting that bad. 8 assists a game, 7.6 rebounds on top of 20.8 points. I mean, he's looked good this year. Bam was almost an all-star. It's going to come down to their supporting cast. If Tyler Hero, Precious Achua, Kendrick Nunn, Myers Leonard when he gets back from his hiatus, if they can all
Duncan Robinson.
I mean, KZ Okpala, they've got a whole line of guys, waiting to step up. And if, they can come together, which I think they will. They don't have a crazy hard schedule the rest of the year. A lot of back-to-backs, though. I think they'll end up probably a top 3 seed in the East. Actually, I don't know about top 3. I'll say top 4. I think they'll end up in the top half of the East. But, yeah, I think the Heat are going to be a very fun team to watch, and I will definitely be using my league pass to tune in to a lot of their games.
Yeah, I think the Heat are getting their stride now. They were struggling really early on in the year. Jimmy Butler got hurt. They were having kind of that NBA Finals hangover, if you will. They were struggling to just stay alive in the East, but now you're seeing Jimmy Butler start to hit his stride after he's coming back from his injury. Obviously Bam is great. I think he was snubbed for an all-star spot, but that's just me. I really like this team, honestly. I think that they have a chance to get back to the finals if everything falls right for them, especially if they can get, especially if they can like have this upswing continuing into the playoffs.
If they get to the finals last year, they can definitely get to the finals this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat were back in the finals.
I mean, like we said, the East is like not that good. So, the Bucks always choke in the playoffs. The Sixers can never get it done. It's like,
Celtics have some really serious depth issues. Talk about
Celtics,
yeah.
Well, there is a team in Brooklyn that just also.
Actually, Brooklyn kind of slipped my mind, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Brooklyn,
those Monstars, the Monstar
They
team.
got Blake Griffin now.
Yeah,
and there's rumors about Aldridge.
Hopefully, Blake can go get a ring.
Hopefully, he can dunk again.
What is it about Kevin Durant where he always ends up on a team that has like 20 all-stars on the roster?
Well, he's the one he has to be the one that's doing the recruiting right now.
Listen,
come on.
Oh, it's hard? No, undoubtedly.
Listen, Kevin
Blake
Durant
said Kevin was his biggest recruiter.
Kevin Durant is a snake, and this is why his legacy will never be worth anything, because his rings not a single one of his rings means anything is worth more than the material it's made out of. His legacy is trash. His legacy is trash. Nobody will talk about
every ring counts.
In 10 years,
every ring counts.
In 10 years, nobody will talk about Kevin Durant because he's a snake.
He's overrated.
He's overrated.
He's the best scorer to ever grace a floor.
He's overrated.
I was gonna say, he might be literally the most well-rounded scorer that.
He's 7 foot, and look at what he does. Like
Kevin Durant is the definition of a walking bucket.
Kevin Durant could win.
No one can guard Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant could win 10 championships in a row, and he'll never touch LeBron James' legacy. It will never even come close. He's a snake.
That's simple.
If you're winning 10 in a row,
100% false.
That's all I gotta say about that. That's all I gotta say.
That's Bill Russell numbers in an actual.
We're learning a lot about Zach's analysis skills today.
Listen. That's not serious analysis. I just hate Kevin Durant. That's all I gotta say.
Okay,
that's fine.
So we're learning about Zach's vendettas today.
How soft and weak do you have to be to lose to a team that 1 year and then you join the same team the next year? It's soft. It's weak. You can't call them real championships. I don't.
LeBron did the first super team. LeBron did the first.
No,
the Celtics were the first super team.
Did not do the first super team.
LeBron did
super teams before that.
The Celtics did the first super team.
Karl Malone and Gary Payton going to the Lakers.
That was the first super team. One of the first, at least.
They were washed.
Super teams have existed before LeBron left. Let's not blame LeBron for super teams.
Okay, well,
didn't pan out.
Recency bias has it that the Warriors are the first super team ever. So
what?
Let's drop that too.
I consider
everybody holds it again. Like everybody's always like LeBron had to play the Warriors. The Warriors are the
first. I consider the first team
I
consider the first team that came together in the primes to compete together were the Celtics. which were just
That's
before
also
LeBron.
true. They're also
Yes.
a super team before LeBron.
Ray Allen. People don't remember how good Ray Allen was in his prime when they first made that team.
No, Ray Allen was a
Kevin
bucket.
Garnett, who was like the best player in the league at that point. Well, you could argue Kobe and Shaq and those guys.
Yeah, like a
And
lot
then-
of other people that were definitely better than Kevin Garnett.
Kevin Garnett does not get the respect. He does not.
I know he was a great
Yes.
player, but he wasn't. He was no Kobe or Shaq. Like that's
He was a savage. He was a savage.
Shaq wasn't the best player by then. That was when Shaq was starting to get old.
Yeah, this is like Shaq joined that team as an old man, so I mean it wasn't really like, And then you had Paul Pierce. Who's Paul Pierce? I think he does cocaine these days because his opinions are trash. But some of the things he says is ridiculous. Have you ever seen the guy on TV talking about sports?
Yeah,
He's something to
not.
stop him from pooping his pants.
Dude, I think it's so funny to this day that Draymond completely ripped Paul Pierce, telling him that he would never get a farewell like Kobe did or something like that, and just destroyed him on the court. It was so funny.
When he got his jersey retired is when I think the Celtics played the Cavs and LeBron just absolutely beat the crap out of them that night, and you saw Paul Pierce was just on the sideline just going
master of petty is what that is.
Yeah.
All right, so Darren, who I mean, I'm not mad.
I forgot we were even talking about our team.
I'm not mad we got off on a tangent. I'm just trying to bring us back.
Listen, this is not a very well organized podcast, but it'll be a fun one to watch.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Darren, who's your team you're interested in this second half of the NBA season?
I thought about changing it for a second because after we got into everything about Utah, it seemed like a bit of a topic to avoid. But I am going to take the Utah Jazz because it's for a team that's number one in the conference. Yes, they don't have a player that's considered to be a true superstar like a LeBron or a Kawhi or a Steph or something like that. But you know what? They're first in the West for a reason. And they're the only team in the league, I believe they're the only team in the league that ranked both top 5 in offensive and defensive rating. Donovan Mitchell is playing as well as we've ever seen. Mike Conley, who was deservingly able to be an all-star for the first time this year, is playing as well, by the metrics, is maybe playing as well as he ever has. Rudy Gobert is just a defense onto himself. I mean, they have great role players. You talk about Bogdanovich, Ingles, Jordan Clarkson's probably going to be the 6th man of the year. Utah's just so deep. And you have 2 all-stars. Maybe they're not superstars necessarily by the class, but you have 2 all-stars in Mitchell and Gobert. And this is a team that I don't think, they remind me a little bit of the going to work Pistons just because you have it's a lot of good players. It's not necessarily one huge superstar, but this is a team that they're going to be. They nearly beat the Nuggets last year in the playoffs. So the fact that the Nuggets went all the way to the Western Conference Finals, I mean, it shows that they were there, and now that they're fully healthy, now that they have all of their together, and they have one of the best coaches in the league, Quinn Snyder. I mean, they look like a team that could conceivably make it. I mean, when you're number one, the toughest conference in the league, you can't ignore it. So I just think it's going to be really interesting to see if they're able to make it. And because they're playing as well as anybody. So I don't, they're good. They're not someone that I don't think you can just as easily count out, even though they don't have that huge superstar necessarily.
Yeah. And going off that, Darren, is as you were talking, I was literally thinking of the 04 Pistons kind of esque. 04 Pistons-esque. There's a team that's kind of like that, all around decent players with a couple solid role players, who doesn't really, they don't really get that attention, but they're good. They're obviously, like you said, they're first in the West. That's the toughest conference, obviously. It's just, it shows. So that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah. No, you go ahead, Zach.
Oh, no, I was going to say, it almost works in their favor that they've really been, sort of memed this year. The Jazz have really caught it from, a number of angles. They didn't get picked they didn't get picked early in the All-Star game. And, Rudy Gobert has 60 put up on him by Joel Embiid. And, after being the best defensive player in the league. So, and despite all that, though, they're very good. They just don't have, that pop that I guess a lot of the other teams have. They don't have LeBron James, and they don't have Joel Embiid putting up 30 and 20. I mean, it almost goes in their favor that they're so far under the radar that they don't have a lot of pressure put on them. that might change if they keep it up and then make the playoffs and win a few games or win a series or two.
I just feel like it's, I mean, I was gonna say, Zach, I mean, you kind of talking about when LeBron's like, when the time comes down to it, LeBron, jumps above everybody. It's like, well, one team's got to do it eventually. At some point, one team's got to do it. I mean, everyone has question marks. The Suns are a big upstart team this year. They're going to be in that conversation. Obviously, the Lakers when Anthony Davis comes back healthy. The Clippers, now that it seems like their team chemistry issues are a thing of the past with as well as Kawhi and Paul George and their supporting cast is playing. Denver's going to be a threat. Obviously, you can't discount the Mavericks with Luka Doncic and Kristaps back healthy, fully healthy now. But Utah, just to me, they play great every night, consistently, offense, defense. They're the most accurate shooting team currently right now in league history. I mean, they do everything well. So
and listen, I'm sorry, but you're 100% correct. It's a great argument. Listen, how long can those 36-year-old legs carry the world on his shoulders? Like before it's like it collapses to the ground. And I mean, like I get it. It's just it's year 16 and it hasn't happened yet. So I'm waiting for the fall from grace. A grace which is higher than any other grace in history. But it's still soaring for some reason, man. And if they do beat LeBron, kudos to them. I hope they win that championship, or it doesn't mean much.
I mean, for me, if anything, they could at least make the run that like Denver made last year, where it's like finally a young team. They're the young team that's able to finally step up and make that run where everyone thought like, of course it's supposed to be the Lakers and the Clippers or whatever like that. But I think they could at least do that. I mean, they should be good enough to be able to do that. I mean, they've played too well this year for I think for me to anyone to discount them. Obviously, yes, I understand they're not the title favorite. I mean, if anyone's the title favorite, I mean, right now it's probably going to be Brooklyn just because, again,
ridiculous.
Grant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden. It's like you kind of have to say they are. But I think Utah, to me, I just think they're just a great team to watch. They're great. They just play hard every night. And, I get, in the way it's, they're the underdog again in that sense. And I just, I root for, because I just feel like when new teams are able to step up and really, enter that conversation, I just think that makes the NBA as a whole interesting when it's just not the same. I mean, I know everyone wants to see the Lakers versus the Clippers, but I just feel like it makes the league so much more interesting when young teams like that, like Utah, are able to step up, take that next step, and they show like, hey, we're here. So, either you got to worry about us. So either you're going to, we're not going to just let you waltz in. You're going to have to earn it, or we're just going to run right over you. So.
I say, and isn't it fun when you have the best record in the league and like you're playing better than every other team and you're still an underdog? Like that's gotta be nice for the pressure.
Well, it probably makes, I'm sure. Well, it's motivating because it reminds me of when I think the interview between Shaq and Donovan Mitchell, when Shaq basically said I don't think you have what it takes to be one of the elite players, and Mitchell's like that's that was it. It's
yeah.
just. For real though. They've been disrespected the entire year, and it's a motivating factor because they want to. We've heard enough. We've heard enough about the Lakers. We've heard enough about the Clippers. We've heard enough about all the big market teams, everything like that. It's like it's our turn. So I just think and they remind me of that 04 Pistons team just in the way that they all not only do they play well together, they they love playing together. And they all just play so well. It's such on a string. Everyone knows their role. Everyone's bought into what they're doing. It just fits so seamlessly together. And I just think that kind of chemistry, we saw with with Denver, in the bubble last year, where it's just, when you have a team that's able to get that, and you have two players who maybe weren't thought of necessarily as superstars going in, but have that capability that can step up and have those kind of performances. I mean, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are capable of that. So, it's something where I just think they should get, I just think they deserve the respect that they've gotten for being playing as well as they have so far. And it's just I think that they're a team that if anyone could potentially get past the, upset the Lakers or get past the Clippers, something like that, why not them? Why not them?
I would like.
If I may, the Phoenix Suns.
Yes, yeah, okay.
Currently sitting at 25-11 and number 2 in the West. They're coming for the Jazz. They're coming for that number 1 spot in the
Chris
West.
Paul really changed that team. Like
Chris
he really
Paul-
changed that
Chris
team.
Paul changes every team. he
Chris
joins.
Paul statistically makes every single team better. Every single new team that Chris Paul has gone to has seen a increase in their winning percentage. The only team that didn't have a significant increase in their winning percentage was the Thunder.
That's just because he's
And-
good though.
But
I mean,
okay.
he still took that team to the playoffs, which is very impressive.
Yeah, that team's not a playoff team without
Westbrook
Chris
and
Paul.
Paul George.
Yeah, no.
But that was like that team was like Westbrook and Paul George, and just Chris Paul on his own improved that record. So Chris Paul is he's my favorite player. I've said this before, but he's amazing. But needless to say, the Suns are 29th in pace in the NBA right now, which that's because they have Chris Paul. Obviously, he slows the game down, but that's how teams play in the playoffs. The game slows down, everything becomes more methodical. The Suns are already playing that style of basketball. Monty Williams, their head coach, has done a really good job with their lineups. He doesn't have one starting lineup that he goes with every night. He switches up the power forward position depending on matchup, which is something that I think more coaches should be doing, because sometimes you're starting a small power forward against some guy that's 7 foot, so it's not ingenious. It's just, why aren't more teams doing something like this? And Mikal Bridges has been having he's improved offensively. Obviously his defense was always good. He's better defensively now this year as well. Devin Booker has been in the league for 6 years. He's only 24 years old. Why does it feel like he's been here for like 20 years now? Like, this man is only 24, but it feels like he's been here for forever.
And he scores it, and he has that 70-point game, which is so strange.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Obviously,
Like
DeAndre
he was drafted like a couple years ago.
Yeah, he feels like he's both been here for forever and not at all.
Like
Exactly.
Like
Like literally, he feels like he's been in the league for as many years as you can think back, but also like you feel like he just got here. Like,
and you keep hearing like, oh, he's the next best thing, but the dude's like a veteran already. So it's
crazy. It's
so
like,
when does he become the next best thing, and we stop calling him like the next best thing?
Well, finally he's doing. I was gonna say, Thomas. I mean, finally he's doing this year because this is finally because it feels like for so long, ever since he really started to become like getting noticed in Phoenix, is that obviously he's been one of the better scorers in the league, but Phoenix is just, they've been bad. And so it's wondering, like,
Horrible.
well, can he be a winning player? Can he do anything? It's like Phoenix actually, I believe, if I remember looking at this, they play at least as good, if not better, with only with Devin Booker on the court compared with no Chris Paul, as they would with like Chris Paul and no Devin Booker. Like, they're winning his minutes big. And I think it's just, it's because for so long, everyone's talking about, like, get Devin Booker out of Phoenix, get him. It's like anytime a superstar in the small market, like anytime that team starts, it's like, oh, get out. It's like, fine, you know what? Finally, like Giannis with staying in, not to necessarily get on a tangent, but Giannis staying in Milwaukee, and like finally superstars are actually like, listen, we want to, like, I don't want to leave. I want to compete. I want to win here. I want to build my own legacy. And Booker, finally, he's able to do that. And they showed those strides in the bubble last year when they went 8-0 in the seeding games. But like, no, they've been great. Chris Paul, the guy, even now at like 35, 36, he's basically mini LeBron in the fact that he just doesn't, he just is still so good. He's so good. The guy, he's everything he does. He's it's never been athleticism, but he's still a great shooter. He's one of the best. He's having one of the best assist seasons he's had in several years. Like, the Suns, like, other than I know I went to bat for the Jazz, but the Suns to me are like right there in terms of just they play so well. They're good defensively now, and they're just, again, I just like it when new teams are just able to step up, and it just makes it so much more intriguing, because it's like, it's not the same one. That's why it's like the Warriors years were just, you knew who it was going to be. You knew who it was going to be.
It was LeBron and the Warriors every year.
It took out so much intrigue, and now it's like, you see Utah and Phoenix, and you have the normal like powers in LA and stuff like that, but like you have so many other teams, and finally a star like Booker's finally getting has a team that can really get and really make a run. It feels like a guy of his talents he's been sorely missing from that kind of conversation, and now that he's in it, just it just feels right, and I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that Phoenix is able, they're finally able to take that next, Chris Paul is finally helping them take the next step.
And I also, not talking about the Phoenix anymore, sort of moving on. I would like to mention one team that may not be viewed as a contender right now, but I think is going to be very interesting because that's sort of the topic. Not best team, but very interesting to watch. The Dallas Mavericks. And obviously they have Kristaps Porzingis and Luka, but I didn't know this until I watched like the First Take segment with Mark Cuban. He was just on, and they were sort of talking to him about it, and he was like, we've been hit harder than COVID than anyone else. Apparently, like a lot of their team has been like missing time due to COVID, or like as part of the policies that have been in place, and like so they're not necessarily, they don't have a contenders record right now. They're just over 500, but like obviously it's going to be fun to watch just because Luka. But now you got him becoming healthy again. I think that's something that'll be super interesting to watch as the season progresses into the later stages.
I mean, he was a huge MVP pick before the season. Like everyone, like I remember reading one excerpt, I think it was in The Athletic, where in terms of talking about MVP, it's like he picked LeBron, but it's like, but you better not to swear or anything, but it's like you better watch out for that. You better watch out for Luka. Like that MFer in Dallas, he is. Like I mean, he's going to. I mean, in terms of an all-around skill set, I mean, Luka, his 3-point, he's having his most efficient shooting season that he's ever had. Got his 3-point shooting, but he's above 35% for the first time in his career in the NBA. I mean, his passing numbers, his rebounding numbers. I mean, he's doing everything.
He's averaging 28.4 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 9.1 assists with 47.7% from the field. So I mean, like the
that
dude
Luka
is
magic, baby.
The dude is like the Great White Hope 2.0. I mean, the dude is a beast. The dude is a monster. And I'm just saying, as far as a team that's interesting to watch, I mean, you can't have very many teams above those guys for the second half of the season, even though none of us mentioned them.
I do think the interesting thing will be to watch is he may not be. I don't know if he'll be traded this year, but is Kristaps really the number? I know they invested a lot in him, but is he gonna be the true number 2 guy? Because everyone's been harping on how bad his defense has been. He came back from injury not that long ago, but his defense hasn't been as good this season, and they don't play well when he's on the court without Luka. It's just that's got to be a question, because if he's not the guy, then you need to seriously look at. I mean, Luka, you don't want to get to the point where Luka is going to be having to really struggle with this team by himself. Like you want to be able to.
Luka, I think, is 23. So I mean, I don't think time is an issue. I don't even know if he's 23, but I mean, Kristaps averages. It says he's averaging 20 and 8, or almost 20 and 9. So I mean, that's solid as far as the number 2 goes.
On offense.
On offense.
His defensive rotations this year have been absolutely atrocious. That doesn't really impact my fantasy. So I have him in fantasy, but so the defensive rotations don't really affect me. So he's been doing great for me in fantasy, but he has been terrible on defense this year. He just had one of his best offensive games the other night of the year. So
has he just been slow, or has
you watch the games, he just doesn't get over to protect the inside. He can't cross the paint to get over there in time.
You think that might be like, you think he might have some hesitancy, or do you just think he's not able to do it though?
He's slow.
He's just slow after the injury.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that he's been injured so much. Like you have to wonder that's a big reason why New York probably didn't trust having him, is because of how injury prone he was. It's something where if he's on the floor, obviously he can be a different. But even if he's healthy, I mean, is he able to be truly that second star? Like, can you conceivably say that Luka up against anyone else in the league is going to be able to get hit? He'll do enough to probably cancel out LeBron or Kawhi in terms of just numbers wise. Can Kristaps cancel out Anthony Davis? Can he cancel out Paul George? Can he cancel out any one of those guys? Like, is he capable of doing that? That's the biggest question for me, is if he's capable of being at that level.
No, it makes sense. I think definitely, maybe his progression has halted, because I mean, during his rookie year, it was like, holy crap, this guy's a monster. This guy can do it all. Like, this is a future star.
Unicorn,
right? The unicorn.
It's Tingus Pingus.
What?
You never saw that video, the draft day video?
What? Wait, what?
It was like
it's the new. So like Kristaps gets drafted, right, and then this Knicks fan is like, who the f is Tingus Pingus from Locked to New York. Dude, look it up. It's one of the funniest videos I've ever watched.
The fine folks of New York were not too happy with that draft pick, and then they were very angry when he left. Well, he did, and I don't think it was injury issues. I think he was dealing with some legal trouble.
His brothers were really influential in him leaving New York. I was listening to a podcast with Brian Windhorst, and I don't know who it was that it was his guest, but the guest was saying that one of the biggest reasons why Kristaps left was because his brothers were influencing him to want to leave and like not be there anymore.
He requested a trade, right?
Oh,
yeah.
He did?
Yeah, he requested the trade.
I don't blame it. But I mean, listen, he did miss he missed all of the 2018-19 season with injury. So that's not something you can dismiss. I mean, he is at this point of his career, he has been an injury prone player. So that's.
But to say, take it with a grain of salt, but technically 1 day ago, the Score says a report from rival execs believes that he is available for trade. So, I mean, they could be shopping him. Who knows?
I do think Cuban did deny that a couple of times, but like, I don't. Well, first of all, every player, you get calls. NBA, people, GMs in any league, you're gonna get calls on every player, and it's just like, I mean, you can deny it, but you'll pick up the phone. And I mean, listen, if some team comes in offering maybe either offering a huge pick package, or if they're offering a comparable player, then you can't.
Hey, listen, if they're willing to send Jared Goff and the 2 first-round picks, you got to do it, am I right? You just got to do it.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. We're getting short on time now. I have one last thing to ask you. NBA season's almost done. Who would you put as the 2 matchups in the finals? If it were, if the playoffs started now, who would you think would make the finals? 2 teams. Not predict who wins, just what teams are matching up.
Brooklyn and the Lakers.
Brooklyn. I would say, yeah, definitely Brooklyn. Ugh. The West is, the West is so tough. I can't
decide between the Clippers and Lakers. I think they're going 7.
It's tough. I do think the Jazz have a legitimate shot. I think the Suns could have a legitimate shot. I mean, they played too well not to not, get that respect. Although if Anthony Davis and LeBron James come to the playoffs fully healthy, them and the Clippers, I would say they would be the favorites. Yes, just because, they're the defending champions. You gotta give them that respect too. So I'll say that. But I do think that either Utah or Phoenix, with the way they play, could definitely. I think they could definitely get there. I don't think that's not a foregone conclusion.
Tyler, quick fire.
Brooklyn
You have
and Phoenix.
I've also got Phoenix. I guess I'm going with Brooklyn. Any other choice would be going against better judgment at this point. Brooklyn's pretty.
I just want to say
I meant in the East. I want to
be on the Thomas Chavez train with Phoenix. That's why I rolled.
Everyone should be excited about Phoenix. Chris Paul is going to make it to the finals, first time in his career. Let's go.
That'd be a great story.
All righty.
I mean, hey, it is what it is. I don't.
Yeah,
I know LeBron. We get it. Okay, you don't have to say anything.
No, I'm just saying, as far as the Suns, I'm nothing about LeBron. I just don't know if the Suns will be able to get it done in the playoffs.
We'll see.
What I'm saying.
We'll see.
That's the one thing for W to watch is that this is going to be Devin Booker's time to prove that he really is that he's the franchise guy. So I mean, this is the time that he's been waiting for. So.
And if Chris Paul wants to be a winner at all, So.
All righty. Well, that's all the time.
Wait, what? I haven't gone yet.
Oh, Carter, I'm so sorry. Carter, I'm so sorry. I thought you said Nets and you thought you said
I said I couldn't pick between the Clippers and the Lakers. But then before any of you guys said anything, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go on a tangent and go wild card and pick the Suns, and then everyone else just picked.
There we go.
So I guess my pick is Brooklyn and Phoenix because I thought that was going to be like a wild card, but everyone else just said the same thing. So
I'll go defend. I'll say, listen, I went to bat for him. I'll say Utah. Why not?
So-
they're
so we
number
got-
one team. They're number one team in the West. It shouldn't
So-
be. It shouldn't be that hard of a. It shouldn't be that controversial. So yeah.
So we're 5 for 5, Brooklyn, and we got 3.
Nope.
For
I
Phoenix.
just decided to change to Milwaukee.
Oh
Milwaukee,
my-
Phoenix.
What?
Final.
Milwaukee. Oh my God. Okay, so
Chris
now
Why
Middleton
not?
can
I'm
ball,
throwing,
dude.
I'm throwing
Okay.
things out left and right now. It's
we're,
Milwaukee and
we're
Phoenix in the
4
final.
out of 5 for Brooklyn, 1
right,
for
we're-
Milwaukee,
Well,
3
we'll
out
probably
of
change
5.
our minds in like 2 days, anyways.
3
I
out of
just-
5 for Phoenix.
It's gonna
1 for
be
the Lakers,
it's gonna be
1 for
Brooklyn.
the-
It's gonna
for the
be Brooklyn. I
Jazz.
just wanted to say Milwaukee just for fun.
So is
Alright.
nobody saying an LA team?
I said the
Zach's
Lakers.
got the Lakers.
Okay.
I got
Okay.
the
Zach's. All right. All right.
All right, everyone. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment if you feel so
yeah,
inclined.
Yeah.
We want to hear feedback. We want to know what ideas do you have for us? How
Listen.
can we be better?
We need ideas. Do you guys think I'm obnoxious? Tell us. We're open to
And-
criticism.
And if you've
Please.
if you've made it this far and listened to all of our BS takes and all of this, thank you. Just like straight up thank you, because this is probably going to be like an hour or so episode, and sitting here listening to us for like an hour straight is probably hell, but thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll
Bye.
be back next week. Bye.